Okay, so I'm making another video because the previous one had kind of a serious problem with it. And that problem is that it wasn't boring enough. Well, I'm going to explain myself a little bit more when we get into the really boring part, so let's go. So this time there's going to be a slight difference, but otherwise it's the same as previous. So you can see the temps, and let's see how long this Rhino thing here can hold up to the stress. And at which point is it going to start overheating stuff. Okay, let's go. Oh no, we have a Suhoi on our nose. Funny button. Oh yeah, by the way, I was using the wrong microphone. Probably, maybe, possibly last time. So this time you might get the sound a little bit different. Well, the Sukhoi is still the same, and my Hornet is still the same, and we are still dogfighting this heavily. Let's see how this goes. Well, it's not going very well, I have to say that. Okay, are we going for the supersonic scissors thing again? I guess we are. Unless I can do something about it first. Wait, what are you doing now? This is not the supersonic scissors we agreed upon. Holy hell, what are you doing, man? Anyway, you might notice that I'm missing on purpose even more than before. But there's actually a slightly interesting reason behind it. Oh shit, me. What are you doing now? And it might sound a bit like excuses, but it's a pretty good excuse. I will get back to it soon. Why are you changing color? My settings aren't perfect in DCS, but that's probably not the biggest problem right now. I think that guy has kind of a problem quite soon. Maybe, or not. Okay, so what the hell are you doing, man? Dude! I think he's going for the mutually assured destruction here. I'm not very fond of the idea. Okay, that's him dead. And now just to make this comparable test, I'm going to fly this pretty much as I did before. Okay, we have the ATC now. And where is my home base going to be? Okay, so basically I'm still liking this total controls thing, which I still don't remember the name of. It's quite useful. But it's kind of not the main point of the test today here. I'm thinking more about this Rhino thing here today. Will it turn us mostly in the direction of something? Okay, let's see the autopilot. That should be the altitude. No. Plane, I want your altitude hold. Okay, now I disconnected. Okay, now it's going. And now we are going. So now I got the autopilot thing going again. So I have some time to explain myself and what's actually happening here today. And the reason this video is going to be even more boring than the previous one is because this is kind of an extreme example of stress testing in another direction, which is to say not very stressful. So until today, basically all the flying I have ever done is maximum force effect. Gains are at 100%. And for this flight, I dropped them to 50. So yeah, I kind of wanted to see the other end of this spectrum. And I'm thinking this could be really boring already because I can already feel a huge difference in the strength, of course. Now, I'm not sure if the force scales linearly. I have it at 50% right now, and it feels super light. But that might just be a feeling thing. Because basically, if this thing gives me about somewhere between 3 and 4 kilos at maximum, at about grip height, then at half the maximum that should be somewhere below 2 kilos. And that below 2 kilos range is actually where most of the normal sticks operate with their space cams. And I actually tend to really like the space cams in general. I especially don't like the VKB. This is the MCGU, by the way, if you haven't noticed. What I don't like is the Avia cam that has like massively huge ramp up at the edges. Like the VKB Avia cam does. It has like very soft strength in the middle and huge ramp up at the edges, and that's not my favorite. I prefer space cams with the more linear ramp up and with basically no center point. And Rhino doesn't really have a center point, so I like that a lot. And I'm using, I think, a fairly linear ramp up, so that should be okay. But after just flying a little bit, this feels really light, like even lighter than the space cams on the Virpil. Is it like what MongoosCM2 or something I tested, or the VKB space cam? But I'm not sure. I'll have to do some more testing, but there's a real risk that this test is going to become like really extra boring, so yeah. So what's going to happen next? I'm going to fly home and land, and then I'm going to start dogfighting and see how long it takes for the temperatures to ramp up. And yeah, this is basically quite boring right now because I don't think I got lots of temps on that first air combat, so yeah, but I just want to do this test exactly the same as I did the last one, so here we are. And again, I can't see the temperatures in real time, so you'll have to tell me what they are. And there's a slight risk of me dying of old age here during this test, because as I said, at 50% this feels super light actually. And that probably explains most of the trouble I had. Well, I was missing on purpose again, but I was missing on purpose more than previously. And that might be because I don't have the... or I'm not used to the feel of the stick. It's not bad, it's totally flyable. But I have to say that I prefer stronger forces. And I would prefer stronger forces on the Virpil CM2 and the VKB Avia cams also, so that's nothing new. And I thought this should be comparable to those at maximum spring strength, but I'm not so sure anymore. I'll have to do a little bit more tinkering. Because they are actually very light when you use the space cam. Even with the biggest springs you can put on those things. When I measured those at roughly approximately same-ish height as this one, it was like less than 2 kilos, so theoretically if this is half the maximum then it should be kind of in the ballpark, but I'll have to do some more testing. Like this is pretty good opportunity. Yeah, well, yeah, this is definitely quite light, but it's totally flyable. It centers normally. There's actually pretty confident centering, it's fine. It's just quite light. And of course, when you use, for example, the Virpil MongoosCM2, the regular stick and not like the Alpha Maximum Mega Omega Optimus or whatever it is, it's plastic, so it weighs like 1/3 of this, so it gets away with much lighter forces. But I was kind of hoping to be able to confirm that this is now comparable to those, but I have to say it's been such a long time since I flew any of those, so I don't really know if it is. I mean, it could be. I'm just used to the bigger strength the Rhino has when it's running maximum settings. One of the drawbacks on those other sticks is that, as I do prefer the space cams myself, I also don't get a lot of strength out of those, so I would like to have more strength. But I don't. But anyway, that's not that much more of a problem for me anymore, because I actually do have the Rhino, and that's pretty good from its feel. And yeah, I would like to try what it's like to fly with realistic forces. Like what it's 15 kilos on a Hornet or something at maximum, but probably I would just like to try that and not use regularly. And where the hell is my glide slope? Okay, this is getting quite stressful again. My plane wants to do a kamikaze attack on Mother Earth, so I might have to do something special here. And in this kind of situation, when you can feel that your stick is kind of different than what you are used to, you don't have the kind of confidence you'd like, but let's see. And always remember that when I say different, I mean different, and as in not worse. Because people have different preferences, and I haven't even tested this enough to see if it's actually worse or not. But so far I'm kind of thinking I do prefer the crisper feel of the maximum force. But since I have a rather heavy stick and I don't have extensions, but I do have the adapter which you need for VKB sticks, and that adds a little bit of height, so some people might have a lighter stick, like for example the Virpil one, which fits naturally or without any adapters, so I'm guessing quite a few people would use that. And for them this kind of force might be actually totally fine. Because like I said, the heavier the stick, the kind of more force you'd like to have. But the thing here is that I think this is quite comparable to the previous sticks I've used that had springs, and it still doesn't feel springy, even if it's not as strong as before. It still has that like solid Rhino style feel where you're not bouncing on springs, but rather those motors are giving kind of natural dampening and a nicer feel otherwise. Oh no, we have a Sukhoi on our hands. So basically what's going to happen now is I'm going to repeat this thing like many times, like dogfighting that guy missing on purpose and making this difficult. Just like we did before. By the way, just like before, I made this mistake on purpose so that it's comparable to the previous test. And I really don't think that I should be seeing the icons here in that condition. But what can you do? That's a DCS problem, and I don't think the Rhino can do a lot about that. And I'm thinking that this Sukhoi... Why are you talking about my flight controls? You don't like those like 50% forces either? Well, okay, fine. Your opinion has been noted, plane. And the Sukhoi isn't actually quite aggressive. I think he had a pretty good chance at going offensive when I gave him the opportunity by purposefully blacking out. And yeah, kind of like right here I'm going to tell you right now that I'm going to prefer the stronger force settings. It's not like this is unflyable, but I absolutely prefer the other setting. And now we are in the usual supersonic scissors. Is he dead? I'm thinking he might be. Yep, he's dead. So we go again. What? Yes, I know I deserve all the medals. Now that's like proof to you that I'm a super excellent pilot. Now you saw it yourselves. I win these battles even if I black out on purpose. Okay, oh no, we have a Sukhoi on our hands, so let's do a bit of dodging things. Honey button. And let's try different things this time, like totally not purposefully blacking out. I'll go behind him a bit. Okay, he's going vertical. I haven't seen that a lot. A little bit patience here. And that wasn't quite enough patience, but I'm still okay. Because I don't think that AI is actually dogfighting very effectively. And I think I might want to try some other opponent that does more like raid fighting and really puts the stress on the stick. Because yes, I want realistic loads, like this is what it actually is dogfighting the AI. Because I am dogfighting the AI here. So I know that the stick loads are going to be realistic. But if he went more like raid fighting, I would be doing more of constant pulling with as much force as possible. As is, we reset. Okay. Where's my keyboard? There. And we go again. Now, of course, like I said before, the temps are like right there for you, and for me they are nowhere. I can't see them. A little bit off turn here. And we are offensive. And there is a slight worry that I'm going to have to fly for a very long time here. And I was inspired to do this test by when I tested the F-16 for the first time with the Rhino actually. And that thing is really good at raid fighting, and I thought that I might learn to fly that and do more raid fight style dogfight and test like that. But what I found was that it actually had a very light force on the elevator axis, much lighter than ailerons. Now he's doing something interesting again. What are you doing? That's not interesting, that's like the opposite of interesting. Well, fine. Anyway, what I was about to say about the F-16 was that the aileron force was much higher than the elevator force, so it would actually have given me rather light constant pull during the raid fight. And well, that's what you get when you fly the F-16 in this game, but yeah. I didn't quite know what to do with that, so I chose to try this Hornet again, but with lighter forces. Because I was kind of inspired when I started thinking about if I should do the F-16 test or not. I was kind of inspired by the idea of using lighter forces and just seeing what happens. Not as much as in I'd like to have lighter forces, because after this much testing I'm pretty sure that I prefer the heavier force. It gives you a much more solid, nice feel. Of course there are lots of steps between this 50% force and the maximum. So the actual best possible option might be there. But then again, the maximum force isn't that incredible either. It is good, but it's not huge. So I might just want to do some further testing, like a medium-sized force. I thought this would be a medium force, but I'm now thinking that this is actually more like pretty light force actually, even though it's still 50% of the maximum. As in, I would go so far as to say that most people will probably prefer heaviest, well, not springs, but you know what I mean. Again, this is totally playable, doable, workable, anything else. Like it centers solidly and totally flyable, okay. Just a preference, I want more strength out of my stick. Okay, see, even getting nose at me. Okay, are you going to actually put up a fight this time? Or just fly over my... Okay, that was on purpose. I didn't... You have seen how short these fights have been so far, usually. So I don't want to end them as quickly. But I'd also say, like, my performance would probably be better with the stronger forces. They do give a little bit more solid feedback. And this guy almost like takes it into a raid fight when he sees that I'm really slow, but then again I don't think he's super fast either. In both cases I'm actually referring to the velocity of the plane and not other types of slowness. By the way, is there like a declutter function for the HUD or something? Because when I'm aiming these shots at that guy, I kind of don't want to get all kinds of extraneous stuff on my HUD. Okay, and this is getting interesting now. These non-supersonic scissors are working much better for him. And he kind of caught me by surprise because our scissors are not supersonic. Well, I guess that counts as a surprise too, even though I'm not that surprised. Yeah, good luck with that, dude. And I can already tell you that I've been flying a lot longer than previously. So, like a massive surprise. It actually matters how much force is being used. It has an effect on how long the Rhino can sustain the force. Now the question of course is how long can I sustain this, and there may be a limit to it, other than old age. Oh, and I forgot to put some throttle in on purpose so that this might become more of a scissors dogfight again. My plane told me to shoot, but then missed, so that's plane's fault. And I am kind of slow here, but it's not helping him very much. And he wants to hug the earth again, right? Okay, I missed on purpose again, like really badly. And there I shot behind him so that he would get scared. And now... Yeah, well... It's not really useful information that I prefer the heavier springs, and I can kind of actually feel it. And I said springs, which is a curse word around here. But what I mean, you know exactly what I mean actually. But anyway, I can actually feel the difference. And I can already tell you that the bigger strength would be much better for this fight. Let's pull him in the HUD a little bit. I'm just teasing you a little bit, Sukhoi. It's no problem. Okay, and we go next. But again, the idea here isn't to find out what's my favorite setting for the Rhino. It's to see the effect of reduced forces on longevity. And I don't think the Rhino is screaming yet at me, so... I think there's definitely some kind of an effect. And you guys can see the temps, so please let me know if I'm about to be here for the rest of my life. So let's go. I don't remember how many rounds I did on the previous settings before overheating, but it was much less than this. Thank you for the flares, I enjoyed them, they tasted very good. Okay, patience here. And I have to find the hot declutter function somewhere. I kind of don't have the time right now, but at some point I really do, because I want to find that, like, center point that I actually use for aiming here. Oh wait, you didn't. Okay. Are you dead? Are you dead? Well, I think that's a yes. Next. And I still can't hear the Rhino, so you guys tell me if I'm even close. Are we getting any kind of results here? I think that Sukhoi is pretty much getting ready to call it a day, if I'm not. I can't imagine him enjoying this all that much. Okay, missing on purpose again. Or actually that was Plane's fault, not mine. And by the way, if you are observant enough, you will notice from those temps that one motor is heating up much more than the other. Because as expected, the elevator axis is working much harder than the aileron axis in this kind of situations, especially when you go to a rate fight, which we don't. Okay, so let's do some pulling here. And again. Okay, so please let me know if I'm going to be here forever. Still can't hear the Rhino. Okay, we're getting vertical this time. Okay, fine. Let's go, friend. Now we are both kind of slow, so that's okay. Picking up speed pretty fast. And I'm just wondering if we are actually picking up any heat. Sorry about the microphone thing. No, I'm not really that sorry, but I just had to say it. Anyway, as we were talking about sounds at some point, I kind of thought I might hear the Rhino, but it was actually a combination of wind noise and afterburner sound. So yes, the Rhino makes a pretty annoying whiny sound when its fans activate, but in reality, even that is kind of difficult to discern from all the other noise these kind of planes make. And my biggest problem right now is that my Pimax 8KX lead is getting tangled into everything. That's quite annoying. And I'm kind of getting worried about those temperatures right now. Or lack of. You guys think it would be exciting if I went like split S next time just for shits and giggles? Or to do something slightly different here? Okay, so let's see if this plane knows when to shoot. Plane doesn't know when to shoot. Well, that was all me. Let's do some air show maneuvers. That's kind of disrespecting the Sukhoi, but that's just because I'm disrespecting the Sukhoi. I mean, he's probably so full of fuel that he could raise the Earth temperature like 5 degrees all by himself. But still, I'm not terribly impressed by his performance. But at least it's fairly consistent, so this testing should be comparable. And again, the microphone, you'll just have to live with that, because the Rhino isn't doing anything. Well, at least there's kind of one takeaway already from this test. Because in the previous tests I was always capable of overheating the Rhino rather easily. I don't want to sound too negative, because there's like no reason to actually, but I was able to overheat it without that much effort, with pretty normal stuff. But right now, we are already approaching the point where my stamina is being questioned also. Like, do I really want to keep repeating this kind of fight time this long? So no. Well, eventually I'm probably going to become a pretty good shot, or at least passable shot. Oh. It's kind of interesting maneuvers. I take it back, you were much more fun when you just surrendered to me every time. Like that, that's good. That's what we want to see. I want to look excellent. I think this is when I have to take a look at those temps myself. Excuse me for a moment. So, we're looking at 38 degrees on the elevator axis. And I think that means that the Rhino beats me in this test, because I actually don't think I'm going to get to the overheat. So I do the same thing I always do when I start losing, so I cheat. And that is the manly thing to do right now. So I'm going to imagine that I'm in a raid fight right now. I want the speed to be a little bit higher. A little bit higher, higher, higher. Dump the nose a little bit. Okay, now we should be going around the circle at a reasonable clip. Let's manage the speed a bit. Now we're actually even slightly too fast, but that's not so bad. Oh no, we are in a massive raid fight. What's going to happen next? We're trying to catch a UFO here. You can see the temps, I can't. Are we getting close to overheating? And the thing right here is... yeah. The spring, I'm saying the spring word again, sorry, but the spring strength is lower than I would like to have, but I think it's actually pretty close to what you get from regular sticks. Unfortunately, I can't confirm that. I will do some further testing, and if I'm like a hero YouTuber, you might actually see the results in there at some point. I will let you know what the pull was at grip height, like here. Of course, the point was just to test lower forces, and I wanted to go for the lower end of what is usable. So in that sense, this is kind of okay. Because this is definitely the lower end of what is actually usable. I can totally see some people might want to fly like this. Probably it's totally possible. But like I said, for me this is not the way. But yeah, still totally... Okay, now I'm running off with speed. That's not good. Well, it is still a half decent rate fight, I think. Oh no, are we catching up to somebody or not? I'm guessing not. And like I said previously, there is a realistic limit when you fly mission loads, and with the planes like this that can do like really long pulling stuff and tend to get into raid fights like this, there's a clear limit in the fuel load, because right this moment we are pretty close to... We already have so little fuel that we'd have problems getting back home. And I'm betting that there's a reasonable chance that we are going to run out of fuel before the Rhino starts overheating. I'm just going to pull the stick. This is not even a realistic raid fight anymore, I'm just pulling the stick. Let's dump the nose a bit to get some energy. Because we are about to run out of chemical energy here. And the plane's kind of not very happy about what we are doing right now. I guess he would like to have the kind of parachute like ultralight planes get. But he doesn't, so the plane is kind of screwed here. Now we got somebody in the raid fight. I think we won. So we have a few moments left of fuel. We are going to keep pulling max force. Or maybe we are actually not. I think I have to call it here. We have basically run out of fuel and everything else. Let's check the temps. $43, so basically it would be possible to overheat this Rhino at that kind of loading, but probably not with a single fuel tank. And I think we can basically conclude this test right here. So yes, the loading is very light right now. And personally I would prefer a much heavier force. But this is in totally usable range. I can absolutely fly with this. Especially with a lighter stick like the Virpil one. Yeah, I can totally see doing this, and I'll have to do the measurements, but I don't think this is that far off of regular spring sticks and the usual space cams. I think they are kind of in the ballpark of these. Actually thinking about this, I'm probably just used to the Rhino being quite strong compared to those. Just moving the stick around, it kind of reminds me of the Virpil and VKB with the space cam, but don't take that as gospel because it's been like something like 6 months when I last flew a lot of those. Maybe a bit less. Well, it's close to 6 months, I'd say. So I'm not very fresh on how they felt. So yeah, basically we are about to end this test right here. And with any kind of normal flying, I simply couldn't get the Rhino to overheat at this setting. Now the question is, can I be asked to continue the tests with like 80% load or something? Then I don't know, probably not. We'll have to see. I might also make a test where I really give it the beans, put the maximum force on the stick, and then don't give a damn about overheating, just keep going as long as I can. So if my Rhino explodes, somebody needs to send me a replacement. So yeah, see you later, people, or something else.